John Lennon's post-Beatles solo track, How Do You Sleep? On the Imagine album, was released in late 1971, Apple Records, the 9th of September 1971 in the US. From the opening, the song is a direct salvo at Paul McCartney. It is widely acknowledged as the most notorious song on Imagine, containing scathing personal attacks on Lennon's former bandmate. The lyrics reference Beatles landmarks, So Sgt. Pepper Took You by Surprise, and name-check Paul's Beatles hit, Yesterday, and his recent single, Another Day. In one verse Lennon sneers, "The only thing you done was yesterday, and since you've gone you're just another day," an explicit suggestion that Paul's only achievement was yesterday, and little else. Lennon even taunts the "Paul is dead" hoax with the line asterisk, "Those freaks was right when they said you was dead." Lyrics and critique of McCartney. The key lyrics of How Do You Sleep? Leave little doubt who is being insulted. Lennon mocks Paul's recent success and persona. For example, "You live with straights who tell you was king," and "The only thing you done was yesterday," implying Paul has surrounded himself with sycophants, straights, and accomplished nothing beyond asterisk, yesterday, asterisk. He adds that Paul's music is muzak, elevator music, to my ears, a line critics called the song's ultimate put down. In an original draft Lennon even had Paul claim to have pinched the melody of Yesterday, an allusion to Paul's own doubts about that song's origins. Throughout, Lennon's tone is bitter and cutting. As one commentator notes, there is no sweetening on this track. It was an unbridled response to the perceived slights from McCartney. Rolling Stone critic Ben Gerson later called it horrifying and indefensible, as it lay waste to Paul's character, underscoring how vitriolic the song sounded even to contemporaries. Meaning and tone. Musically, How Do You Sleep? Is a powerful rock-funk number, with George Harrison on slide guitar, but its real punch comes from Lennon's venomous lyrics and delivery. Lennon himself later described it as using Paul as an object to vent his resentment, one of Bob Dylan's nasty songs, he told David Sheff. Lennon acknowledged that at the time he wasn't really feeling that vicious, but was in a mood to get right down to the nitty-gritty. The overall mood is one of wounded pride and anger. John rails at Paul for abandoning peace and cooperation and at McCartney's claim that John did nothing but preach. Yoko Ono and Lennon's manager Alan Klein were reportedly in the writing room suggesting lines, "The only thing you done was yesterday," was Klein's idea, which fuels the song's backbiting tone. Some later interviews suggest John tried to play it off as just me attacking myself, and insisted, "Him and me are okay," but the published lyrics make the target and intent unmistakable. Historical background. The Lennon-McCartney feud. By 1971 the once close Lennon-McCartney partnership had turned acrimonious. The Beatles officially broke up in 1970, but bitter events followed. John's famous 1970 Rolling Stone interview, after Brian Epstein's death, publicly declared, "Paul is the head" of the band and suggested the group had effectively split, which angered Paul. In April 1970, McCartney filed a lawsuit in London's High Court to dissolve the Beatles' legal partnership. Paul and Linda even took out a cheeky ad in UK music papers in late 1970 depicting them in clown costumes, perceived as a mockery of John and Yoko's Vagism concept. Then in May 1971 McCartney released Ram, which Lennon felt contained veiled jibes at him. Lennon believed lines on Ram, like, "Too many people preaching practices," and "You took your lucky break and broke it in two," were digs at his lifestyle and business dealings. McCartney later admitted, "Too many people" was a dig at John and Yoko. The Ram back cover even showed two Beatles copulating, widely seen as a comment on the other Beatles. Feeling attacked by Ram and press barbs, John channeled his resentment into How Do You Sleep? In Lennon's own words, he heard Paul's messages in Ram and decided to not be obscure, but answer them directly. The result was this pointed, angry letter, set to music. Lyrics and key criticisms. The song opens with mock orchestral tuning similar to Sgt. Pepper, before launching into its jabs. Lennon taunts Paul with lines like, "So Sgt. Pepper took you by surprise, you better see right through that mother's eyes," asterisk, implying McCartney's music had become predictable. He hits hardest on Paul's songwriting credit. "The only thing you done was yesterday," Lennon sneers, further quipping that, "Since you've gone, you're just another day." These lines blatantly belittle Paul's post-Beatles output and suggest his main claim to fame was the old Beatles ballad, Yesterday. Another lyric calls out McCartney's circle of friends, "You live with straights who tell you was king," mocking the notion of Paul as king of the band. The repeated, "Oh, how do you sleep at night?" refrain is delivered like a taunt, questioning how Paul can live with himself after abandoning the Beatles. Critics have noted that every verse is a jab. Lennon even dismisses Paul's music as muzak, and shames him for any hint of musical theft. "You probably pinched that bitch anyway" was in early drafts. Meaning and tone. The song's tone is viciously confrontational. Lennon's own backing vocals, "Not about Paul, attacking myself," aside, there was no pretense, it was a full-on diss track. As critic Ben Gerson wrote, the lyrics lay waste to Paul's character, family and career. Lennon was channeling hurt and rivalry from the Beatles split. The effect is one of biting sarcasm and wounded pride. John described it as a song born of resentment and a mood to finally call Paul out. The laughter behind the recording, with Klein and Yoko suggesting lines, lent it a cruel edge. Rolling Stone and NME reviewers singled out its musical force but noted it would be remembered chiefly for its acerbic lyrics. "How do you sleep? Will be remembered for its lyrics," wrote Alan Smith of NME. McCartney's reaction and response. Paul McCartney was taken aback by Lennon's public attack. In interviews he admitted he found the song hurtful. He later wryly noted that Yoko had called his contributions nothing, and Lennon got back at him with, "All you ever did was yesterday," to which Paul responded, "No, man." McCartney did not fire back in kind, but he did write music as a gentle reply. During this period McCartney penned "Dear Friend," released late 1971 on Wings Wild Life, a conciliatory tune addressing the feud. Paul said it was him, answering, "John," a quiet appeal to put aside the bitterness. Beatles chroniclers note that "Dear Friend" was intended for Lennon, asking essentially, "Does it need to be this hurtful?" According to Beatles Bible, Lennon likely heard Paul's song. It was recorded before Imagine came out but chose not to comment publicly. In any case, Paul did not engage in further public barbs. In later years he rarely discussed the feud, though he acknowledged, "How do you sleep?" stung him. Later years and reconciliation. By the mid-1970s John and Paul had largely moved past their feud. They even secretly reunited briefly in 1974. The two jammed together in an LA recording session of unreleased tracks that year, showing they could still make music together. In interviews of the late 1970s and early 80s both expressed regret that they had fought and relief that they had reconciled before tragedy struck. As Paul later recalled, by the late 70s he and John were back on friendly terms. He talked to Lennon frequently. By 1980, after John's death in 1980, McCartney mourned deeply, saying he took solace in the fact that the bitterness had faded, leaving only the bond that had first united them. In sum, while "How Do You Sleep" stands as a raw document of their temporary fallout, the two friends ultimately rekindled their brotherhood before Lennon's life was cut short.